Hello, I'm Einar. I'm 21 years old from Norway. No, I'm 39 years old. Play in the band Leprous, progressive metal band from Norway. I don't agree with that genre definition, but that's what we're called. I feel amazing about it, honestly, and we started with it like right after the Aphelion tour, really long 40 days in 2023. When I got home, I started writing sketches instantly, and it was intense, but quite short amount of time that we were writing because we just got into a really, really good flow and wrote more than enough for the album. So I felt great even before we entered the studio, and during the studio, it felt amazing, and afterwards, even more amazing. So I think you can guess how I feel about it. I feel amazing. Whenever I work in the studio, I work with David Castillo. Like almost everything I do with him. And he's like turned into one of my best friends, so it's easy for me to work with him. It's a very relaxed vibe all the time, which suits me very well because I think I perform much better if I'm not stressed. When it comes to being in the studio with him, it's usually really smooth, and it was really smooth. The only challenge of being there is that there is no daylight that you get to see because it's kind of inside a garage. There is no windows, so you stay inside of that thing the whole time and you don't really connect much with the outside world, which is kind of nice because then you can focus, but sometimes you feel that you're lacking a little bit of sunlight when you're there. But apart from that, I would say that the process was really smooth. There is nothing special that happened that is worth mentioning of negative things, at least. I think Melodies of Atonement is more straight to the point. It's more focused around the band members we actually have in the band instead of adding a lot of extra elements like brass and strings and stuff like that. We had a lot of guest musicians in the past, but we decided, okay, what if we just focus everything around the people we actually have in the band? And I feel by doing that, by removing some elements, instead of making it sounding smaller, I think it sounds bigger because there is more room for everything. One of my goals when I started with this album was to try to make some sort of 90s gangster rap grooves and then put Lepers on top of it. Some songs fit perfectly into that vibe, but whenever we put Lepers on top of it, and when everybody can hear that I have like zero swag and like I listen to good rap and hip hop, but I would be completely incapable of making it myself because I'm not a rapper. The goal that was aimed for by doing this sort of hip hop vibe with it, we landed pretty close to it sometimes, when other times it landed really far from it. So stylistically, it's much more direct, it's to the point, it's pretty characteristic and catchy songs, most of them. It's heavier and less prog, I think. We don't really have much of prog tracks on this album. I think it's going to be more of that on the next one. We wanted this one to be really straight to the point and no bullshit, yeah. Yes, when I was 14 or 15, I was having a keyboard that I got as a present for my confirmation, that we call it in Norway. And I got this keyboard where you could play and you got some beats. And I had this rap project with some friends and we were like rapping on top of that together. We didn't really know what to write about and our English level was really bad and we wanted to rap in English. But I think a part of being a good musician is also to know your limitations, I'm pretty self-aware when it comes to knowing what I'm good at and what I'm not that good at. And I don't think I would, as I was mentioning before, I have no swag whatsoever, like nothing. I never write with a deliberate theme. When I write music, I just write stuff that I've felt or think about, or everything is usually everything that I write, which is most of the lyrics on that album. It's just my experiences, my inner, I would call it battles, but inner work that I've done within myself. It's not like a continuation of where I left off with the Pitfalls and Aphelion, because especially on Pitfalls I was really depressed and I was low and down and I felt really bad for most of that recording. Aphelion still a little bit, but a bit better. But since then I've kind of worked my way out of it more or less completely and I'm feeling really good in general. A lot of the things that I write are either from the past about like how I got out from stuff, and or just like how I feel now that I have gotten out from things, and just how I deal with things in order to become happier, basically, because that's what most people are about in life, I guess, trying to be as happy as possible for the time that we have here. And I didn't want to waste more time not being happy, so I just found some techniques. Sounds simple, it's kind of is and kind of isn't, but yeah, that's what the album is about. Yeah, but I feel that my soul was pretty healed when I got there, in a way. Of course, music to me is extremely important, so anything that has to do with music is really comforting me in many ways anyway, so because I enjoy it very, very much, and my life would be much worse without music in it. But maybe healing my soul, but I wouldn't use that expression, because I felt pretty good for most of the recording anyway, and now I feel really good, so yeah. No, since Pitfalls, our albums has been really personal, and that's with this sort of transparency and being transparent in what I write has become the only way I know how to write. And this is something that I realized on Aphelion, or a song that I actually wrote for Pitfalls, but we saved it for Aphelion, was On Hold. So one of the most transparent and direct lyrics I ever wrote, to that point where it felt too much, you know, too uncomfortable. It's just like, oh no, this is too direct. And I think I've never gotten better feedbacks of lyrics in my whole life than for exactly those lyrics, because people like transparent. They like to be able to recognize things from their own life and more easily relate to something. If you write anything in 1,000 metaphors, it's just like nobody really understands what you're talking about. Sometimes when we wrote a lot of metaphors, even eventually I started forgetting what I was writing about in the end, because it was that I don't remember exactly. And it's a Scandinavian thing to wrap anything into metaphors. When I see native speakers, I see more often than not that they write a bit more straight to the point, and I started preferring that a lot too, because I will never be a great author. This is not my call in life. I'm not a writer, I'm a composer and a musician and a singer. The best that I can do, or to give the best experience from a lyrical point of view, is just to write something that is true and just transparent and honest, and people really tend to appreciate that, I think, and I appreciate that as well, because then you don't really need to invent anything. You can just tell what is already there, basically. You just need to find a way to put words on it, of course. But I'm very used to putting words on my emotions, and more. I'm a very self-analytical person, so I analyze myself always. Good and bad things, like the good things, okay, why are they good, and how can I get more of that, and how can I get less of what I don't want to have in my personality, basically. And that's how I work, basically. Today I feel for being labeled as a prog band, we're quite modern sounding. There is not much retro elements in our music, and that was never, if there ever was retro element, it was to blend with something modern, because I'm not too fond of doing retro stuff. I love to listen to real retro stuff, because that was what they did back then. But when someone tries to sound like something that has been before, to me, I don't really buy that completely. So for us, I see us as like a modern, melancholic, hard rock metal band, occasionally not metal. When we compare it to our earlier days, it was more just riff after riff after riff. There wasn't any overall vision of each song. It was just put together riffs and hoping for the best, basically. And some people like that songwriting approach, but I don't really like that too much. Sometimes when we play some older songs live, I just ask the crowd there, is just like, are you ready to hear 10 songs in one? And just like, and this is how I feel now. I don't feel like a song needs a lot of elements, you know. Whenever we write a song, to me, the less sections you have to deal with, the better. So instead of adding sections, I prefer to take the sections that I have in the song. Instead of adding new, I prefer to take them and changing them. And when doing that, you create a much better flow in the song. It becomes less bipolar in a sense, and it becomes less messy. I prefer that way of writing for sure, and it's more taken from the classical way of writing music, that you kind of have something and then you develop that instead of having something and then next riff, which is the kind of rock way of writing, meeting at the rehearsal room and, oh, I have this riff, okay, let's put it after this riff. And then there is no overall vision of why to do that. And sometimes it can work, and there has been good songs written like that, but I prefer overview. This is a long-term thing for me, the solo stuff. It's something that I want to build parallel with Leprous, and I want to have those two projects as very relevant ones. And I'm also very ambitious with the solo project. So as for now, I don't feel it has a very big impact after I did the solo project. It doesn't make a big difference in how things work for Leprous. Melodies of Atonement, one of the reasons why we also wanted to drop the orchestral elements is because I want to take that orchestral part and go all the way with it in my solo stuff. Booked the main symphonic orchestras from Norway for the next one with that already. So I want to take the more close, fragile, and make that project even more personal, even more emotional, whereas Leprous will be the band in a way. But that will be more like orchestra with band instead of band with orchestra. It will be very heavily relying on actual symphonic orchestra playing, and I'm very ambitious with it because I love to write something in that style, more over in the soundtrack kind of cinematic vibe. But I also love that we removed it from Leprous, because then those two projects can go to each their side and get their own sort of following. Of course, there is going to be a lot of crossovers like it always is, but I think there is going to be a different kind of following also as well for those two projects. And by doing that, we kind of allowed ourselves to become more Leprous in Leprous, in a sense, because then I get an outlet for something else in the other project.
Really
yeah, many new solo albums, many new Leprous albums I need to create all the time, and so don't worry about it. Until I die, I think I will just compose. It's my main ambition in life, more than playing live, more than playing concerts. It's compositions for me. It's like the main thing for me. I'm even more feel like a composer now than a singer. So yeah. Everybody knows Bard. He's a very profiled drummer, incredible drummer. It's like next level. I honestly don't know anyone that I can say is better than him at what he does. And I don't say that because he plays in my band, I just say it because it's true. I cannot mention one drummer that is better than him in that genre. Maybe there are some, but I don't know them. But that's the only thing he knows how to do. Literally, and he says that himself too. Recently I was trying to show him some different actors. Just recently he discovered Brad Pitt. He had never heard of him before. So Bard is just like, he's in his drums and that's pretty much it. He has a lot of energy or zero energy. He has ADHD, like severely. I don't know anyone with more than him. So he's a very energetic person, or someone completely with no energy, like mostly has a lot of energy and then suddenly he just... But he's incredibly focused when he's in the studio. He has a hyper focus that I could not even dream about. Like when he's in the studio, he's focused the whole day, and then the rest of the day he's not focused on anything else than sitting on his phone. He's a character, and he loves to make other people uncomfortable, and if there is a passport control somewhere, he will try to be inappropriate there just to make the rest of us very uncomfortable, and that's what he does. Robin is like incredible guitar player and a very underrated guitar player, but it's a little bit his own fault as well, to be honest, because he's too humble in a way, so he doesn't want to... He's too Scandinavian about it. So if he was like 20% more American in his approach, he would have more followers, because he's an incredible guitar player and he can do anything he wants. He can do this sort of crazy prog shredding if he wants to, the kind of Petrucci stuff. He used to do that when he was younger. If you listen to his old band, it's just like, it's crazy, that sort of playing. But it's more that it's not his taste anymore. He likes to play with more feeling, and he's an incredible guitar player. Super soft and sweet guy most of the time, unless he has a big temper, so he goes around confronting people at the airport if they don't act in the way that he prefers and everything. So he's a character, almost all of us have very strong personalities, him included. But yeah, great relation with everyone. We get along very well now. It took some time to get there with some of us, but yeah, we're having a really good relation, all of us. Simon, an incredibly versatile musician who, he's an amazing bass player. He's a really good guitar player. He's really good at keys. He can also sing very well, and also he's a really good composer too. So he has this other kind of jazz project that he's working on aside from Leprous, and he's been writing and co-writing some really, really nice tracks in Leprous, like Distant Bells and Have You Ever, and yeah. He is the one that didn't come from a rock background at all. He had been playing in lots of different things like gospel stuff, and he had not been into he was just supposed to be like a session member for the Congregation album. Then he wanted to join and we brought him, and then we had a lot of differences in the beginning because both me and him are kind of a bit alpha male in behavior, both of us, and it took some time to adjust to that. But now we're really good friends, and everything is really, really good, and we have a lot of mutual respect. And I think sometimes it's easier when you have strong personalities in the band, because then you know exactly where you have the other person. They don't need to really guess anything, you know. So yeah, I think we have a great vibe within the band, better than ever, honestly. Then Thor, he's the only diplomat in the band. He's been there since the beginning with me. He's my best friend, most loyal person on the planet. He has told me many times that if he didn't know me, he would have probably not have this sort of career. Yeah, he's a person that whenever he does something, he loves to continue with that thing. But he wouldn't have started it by his own, in a way, by his own initiative, but he loves to be a part of it, and he's a really important part in the band as a musician, and also his lyrics over the time, but also in terms of the vibe in the band. It's really nice to have one person who is like a diplomat, you know, who don't have to be opinionated about everything, who like the rest of us. And I think also the way me and him has been a kind of a perfect match when it comes to running the day-to-day things from the band. Now we got the manager, so now we can relax a bit more, but we still have to be quite present because it's still the beginning. So we were a perfect match because me and him are kind of very different. If it was only me, the project would be too chaotic. If it was only him, it would never go anywhere. I've been the driving force pushing it forward, and he's been the one applying some structure to it. So it's been a really perfect balance between me and him. Now I think finally became a lot easier. I haven't always been easy. I think I'm a very emotional person with a lot of baggage from my past in a way that made me overly sensitive to some things and maybe too opinionated about everything. And this is a strange thing with my personality because I've always been a mix of extremely soft and extremely hard. And that is very difficult for people to deal with when they don't know me. When they've only seen me soft and smiling and laughing, and suddenly out of nowhere they see that I'm extremely hard and they are not expecting it, and they're just like, what the fuck happened now, you know, like. As I mentioned, I've been doing a lot of work within myself, and that also includes the way that I act with others. And I think now 99 out of 100 times that I would have been angry before, I don't get angry now because it's kind of a bit the same process with every big emotion, is that you can choose to let it swallow you, or you can just choose to observe it a bit from distance and let it pass, and then it goes away. So I'm a person who has been like a little bit of everything, honestly. It's not legal in Norway to say a lot of positive things about myself, so I cannot. Not anymore. It used to a lot before. And we spent a lot of time to get there, you know, like now, no. We almost never argue about anything anymore. And if we do, we solve it quickly, you know. Like became a very harmonic band. It wasn't always, but now it is. It's not that many original things to answer to that, because most bands have the same plans. It's album tour, album tour, album tour, and that's it pretty much. What else can we do? Like create some content here and there, like this, for example. And also we always have to be a bit secretive about not giving out too much information, because, you know, the labels, they want to have a schedule on when to release which news, you know. So if I just say everything now, suddenly we lose the news value of that thing, you know. So we have a lot of plans, to say it like that. This microorganism, plankton, or like, I'm not exactly sure how to say it in English. And first of all, we just, oh, I love how this looks. What is it? But that can make actually a lot of sense, because like it's a microorganism, it's basically nothing, it's something small. But it represents for us that everything starts with something very, very small. Every change you make within yourself starts with something small. If you try to start big, it never works. So everything you do, you have to start with something small. If you write a song, you have to start with something small. If you do any change, anything relevant in your life, you have to start with something small and then take it gradual. And this is kind of shows a bit for us to just, you start with the completely basic and then you build from there. You just make things less complicated, and then you try to build a bit again from scratch. That's how I see it within me.